Hello, I'm Robert Mehling here with the Sioux Empire Podcast, and I'm here with Briggs Warren, who is running for Sioux Falls City Council. For my part of the town, he's running for the Northwest District. Warren, tell us a little.
I'm Briggs Warren. I am 18 years old, and I'm currently a senior at Roosevelt High School. I am a varsity debate member at the school. Not only that, but I've been interested in Sioux Falls city government for quite some time now, and I've lived here and was born here.
Thank you. So, what made you decide that you wanted to get into, city politics? You and I tonight, we just went to a city council meeting. I find it fascinating, but it can be dry topic. I was teasing you even about, a lot of 18-year-olds here hanging out for the fun. What inspired you to get involved in this?
Well, you actually brought that up. The whole 18-year-olds not wanting to get involved. I'm seeing a lot of students and my peers who I go to school with who have zero cares about any form of government, any form of politics. They just don't care. And that lack of caring is concerning to me because eventually the torch will be passed to them and it will be the responsibility. And what does it say for our future if they're not interested in it? Going on from that, my interest in government and city government specifically started actually last April when a group of parents decided that they wanted the school start date to be pushed back farther and the end date to be pushed back farther. I was part of a group at Roosevelt High School that tried to fight against that, which was unsuccessful. But it was at that point when my realization that we can try and that we do have a voice came about, and I decided that I wanted to do more and have a voice and a say in what was happening because this vote affected students and they didn't really feel like they had a voice to stop what was happening.
Okay. I have a few topics here that are, from some of the listeners here, just some broad topics. My first thing would be, with the success of the Denny Sanford Premier Center and the, water park, other things going on, what is your stand for the city of Sioux Falls on entertainment and recreational spending?
I think it's a good thing to spend money on if you have the money to spend. The event center is, as we're being told, profitable. It's making money for the city. But again, we have to look at any sort of debt that we have incurred because of it and weigh those. The new pool that is being built, the water park pool, that will be beneficial for the city. It'll be a good place in the summer for youth to go to have fun. But then again, it's more debt that we are incurring. So we have to weigh the benefits and the con on those topics and decide if it's actually beneficial. Now, for a city who's growing and trying to attract a younger group of people, grow and have a larger family presence, those will be draws for the city and not only getting people to move here, but also for businesses to come as well.
Excellent. And, okay, kind of on the topic of spending, because that's a big part of what cities do. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on infrastructure spending.
Infrastructure spending is one of the biggest spending points that the city needs to focus on currently because the streets and the roads are the backbone of the community. If we don't have a strong infrastructure, strong roads, the city's going to fall apart. When I drive home from here tonight, I'm going to be driving on Marion and Russell. When I get towards Russell, heading towards Marion, there's going to be a portion of the road that's been like this for 3 weeks that is practically turned to gravel. The side of the road has turned to basic gravel. A city the size of Sioux Falls should not have roads turning to gravel. Roads should not be allowed to devolve that far and become gravel. Now, yes, we live in a state that throws everything it has at us, but we need to look at ways to build our infrastructure so that it lasts, and it might cost more in the short term, but in the long term could save us large amounts of money. I actually was looking into infrastructure recently, and I saw that up in Ontario, there's a professor who has developed a system for ensuring that the road quality is high initially and in the long term saves money because of the lack of repairs that are needed over the long term.
Okay, next thing we're going to ask about is city debt, which is a very pertinent issue considering the city is looking at I believe, around $21 million bond for a new office building setup. It was some interesting things that we're talking about in the meeting tonight. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing that actually caught my attention first when they were talking about that tonight was the representative from the Chicago law firm that the city's brought in for their bond regulation said that it's actually going to be $25 million, and they overshoot to leave some cushion in there. But $25 million is a lot of money. 21 is a lot of money. And I was actually surprised when one of the city council members tonight said it's just $18 million for the city, which shows that the city council has a distorted view of money. And it brings me into my view that the city council itself is not a good representation for the city. You have individuals on the city council who are of generous means and high positions within the community who don't represent the normal individual in the city. So what you have is a city council which doesn't represent a good picture of actually the community itself. Whereas I am a younger individual, very younger individual in some people's eyes, but I'm also not an individual who has a lot of money. So to me, when I hear just $18 million, that's concerning to me because not only does it show a lack of understanding and a grasp for how much money that is, but it shows that they're not fully concerned with the amount of debt the city's putting on. And to me, that is concerning because eventually it's going to be the younger generation, the people who are graduating, who are coming up currently in this community, who are going to have to figure out how to pay this off. Not only that, but the city building, as I talked about, will only be viable for 30 years. 30 years to them is going to be a long time, but to the newer generation that's coming up and is going to inherit the city, 30 years will put us in our 40s. So then when I'm 40, I'm going to have to figure out with the city how we're going to move on with the administrative building. Wouldn't it make more sense to look even longer than that, long term, into development and not saddle the city with a debt that is going to have to be repaid, not by the current generation, but by the future generations. Not only has the city is looking at incurring the $21.9 million for the new administrative building, but we've recently taken on debt for the event center as well as the water park that is being built by the VA. And those are also concerning things because the question then comes back to, are they necessary or are they not? And is it a good debt or a bad debt? And that's something that has to be discussed more in depth. I am glad that tonight the City Council decided to push off the second reading until April 5th because that'll give individuals more time. And not only that, it brings it up closer to the election, so this won't come off as something that's just trying to be quickly pushed through before new City Council members get brought in.
How would you respond to the idea that, playing a little devil's advocate here for you, that this is a long-term investment looking at like long-term savings? They're spending money now on an expandable building that, the city employees have said is modular and they can build onto, and they've even referenced the, Justice Center, how that has been a thorn in the side and a lesson learned that they need to plan their offices more modularly and expandable for the future to save money. What's your response to that argument on this particular building?
So yes, the City Council did talk about how the building would be able to have a fourth floor added onto it at a later time to make it more viable. But they also are ignoring the fact that wouldn't it make more sense to have all city employees in one building? So even though we have this building for them, we're still going to have other parts of the city. The city did talk about how the fourth floor will be able to be added onto the building if necessary. So the building is expandable and it will be able to grow, but they haven't addressed the fact of will it be able to grow enough. They're still setting on that 30-year time frame, which, yes, 30 years is a long time. It's longer than I've been alive. But looking down the road, it is a fairly short-sighted thing. Why can't we look at a 50-year building? Look at Carnegie Hall. That building has been around for almost 100 years, and it's still serving the city in some form. So the question is it a building that's going to be viable for the long term or not? And that's something that I'm glad that we're going to have longer to look at and invest in.
Here's something interesting, because there was someone tonight at the council meeting that was talking about it, and it's something I've been noticing a lot in our news lately. What's your stand on public safety and the crime rate?
Public safety and law enforcement is actually something that's pretty near and dear to my heart. My grandfather spent over the majority of his life working for the probation services here in Minnehaha County. More so than that, but the safety and concern is important. Just this past week, there was an incident in our district, in the Northwest District of Sioux Falls, with two individuals. And I was at work with my manager when she got the phone call that her 5-year-old son in kindergarten, was placed into lockdown for the second time this year. And she was worried not only for his safety, but how is she going to explain this to her son? Why he had to sit in a room for over 2 hours in the dark with the doors locked, worried and wondering what's happening. So having to have parents deal with that instances is concerning. Not only that, but at Roosevelt High School itself this past year, there have been 2 instances in 1 month where the principals had to come on and explain why the threat was or what it caused, was referring to. So we have this issue where we're growing. With growth, there's going to become more concerns, which need to be addressed, and we need to ensure that crime and safety is maintained in the city of Sioux Falls. Now, the woman who was speaking at the city council meeting today talked about prostitution, human trafficking, and other illicit criminal activities that are happening in the city. And I've actually talked to some individuals about this, and Sioux Falls is a crossroads for human trafficking because we have I-90 coming through the Northwest District, as well as I-29 heading north-south, and then I-90 east-west. So you're going to see an increase, and the city needs to ensure that they're doing everything they can to not only stop that, but to help the victims of these crimes and ensure public safety is continued. Now, does that mean that we need more funding for the law enforcement, more individuals going out and doing investigations into these crimes? Possibly, and it's something that needs to be looked into, and we need to have a organization put together to view this, look in depth at it, and propose recommendations to the city council on how it should be addressed. Because if a city's not safe, it's not going to be able to grow. Nobody's going to want to move here, so we need to ensure that in the coming years.
So, Mr. Warren, my final question of the night for you, as a resident of Northwest Sioux Falls, why should I vote for you?
You should vote for me for city council because I'm going to be approachable. I'm going to be someone who's concerned about every citizen in Sioux Falls. Not only that, but I am someone who doesn't come from extravagant backgrounds or means. I am a normal person who wants to do good for my city and do good for the people who are with me. More so than that, I'm concerned with where the city will go in the future, not just next year or the year after that or 5 years or 10 years as the city tends to look at their budgets, but I'm looking at the end game because eventually I'm going to want to have a family in Sioux Falls, and I'm going to want to raise kids in Sioux Falls, and I'm going to want them to live in a city that I know I've been able to make better for them and for their children eventually. I may be young, I may only be 18, but I'm looking far down the line past just the next few years. And that's what my focus will be on the city council, is to ensure that not only are we set up for the near future, but for the far future in all regards, from safety to infrastructure to debt to recreational buildings for community events and fun. I'm going to be looking at all aspects of the city and not only viewing them under the short term, but the long term, and as some would probably say, the extreme long term.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Any websites or social media people should know about if they want to learn more about you?
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at Briggs Warren SF. You can also find me on Facebook at Briggs Warren for City Council, and I have a website which is briggswarren.com.